If you are considering coming out to Southeast Asia, and I know that there's a lot of guys that target the Philippines. It's an English-speaking tropical country. It's got beautiful women, beautiful scenery, low cost of living. And there are other countries, Vietnam, Thailand, that guys tend to target. In my age range, because of the fact that dating works really well in the Philippines, everybody speaks English. The girls are eager to meet and date and being in a relationship with a Western guy. The Philippines is a very popular place to come and retire or live a semi-retired life, maybe teaching online or doing some other online job that gives you income to live out here. But before you make that decision, or as you're making that decision, you should consider that things may not always go exactly as planned. As they say in battle, no plan survives contact with the enemy. And it's kind of true in life too. No plan survives contact with a Filipina. No plan survives contact with disease or an ailment. I had pneumonia the first 3 months I was here. Tough to kick. I was going around doing all my activities and traveling to different islands with walking pneumonia. And I was sweating all the time and I was sick all the time and I lost a lot of weight. I got over that, got some good meds to get rid of that, and a month and a half later I was attacked by a huge Rottweiler and my arm was ripped open. I ended up 2 months without being able to do my workouts because I had a big gash in my arm that had to heal up. Rabies shots and the whole works. So for me, you just kind of work through those things and you keep on going, and it was a big deal, but it was no big deal. It could have been worse. So you make your plans to come out here. Maybe it's the Philippines or maybe it's another country, and you should keep in mind that you need a contingency. A lot of people say don't have a plan B because then you won't focus all your energy and resources on your plan A. Well, that's nice if you've got some kind of fallback. You've got, you're young and you got your parents to fall back on, or you've got a good job skill and you can go easily get a job again. But if you're out here in Southeast Asia and your plans go awry and you run out of money, then you're not having a plan B is going to bite you hard. So having a plan B allows you to escape from whatever it is that you got yourself into, or find something better if you're not satisfied with the arrangements you've made for yourself. As an example of this, I had been here in Cebu, Philippines for 28 months, and it kind of started to wear on me. There's some pollution, there's squalor, there's a bit of wonkiness. The dating scene can get old after a while. But maybe it's more that I kind of began to settle in too much and I lost appreciation for what I had here. So I was bored and I was casting about for somewhere else to live in the Philippines or potentially out of the Philippines. And a few friends of mine and I started talking and socializing the idea of checking out Vietnam. And so we did. We went off to Vietnam, 4 of us. Over a course of about 3 months, we all went. And we all lived in Saigon for a few months, and 2 of us moved up to Da Nang, center of the country. Beautiful. It's a beautiful country. But it's not without its own problems. There's language barriers. It's hard to date. The girls are much more conservative. You can expect to be invited to their family home, sitting around drinking beers with their brothers and uncles and father. It's not my scene. I want to date a girl first, get to know her, and then know her family later. That's not going to happen for you easily in Vietnam. It can happen easily here in the Philippines. So the dating scene didn't suit me when I got up there. And then there were infrastructure issues. Da Nang as a city is growing so fast that they were having citywide power outages, planned electrical outages to upgrade the power system. And the same with the water system. And then they started tearing up the streets around where I lived, putting in new sewers. That's nice for the long future of the city, but it's not great if you just moved in and a month later all your streets are torn up and it's mud. There's other issues with Vietnam with driving there. If you don't have all your ducks in a row, you don't have an international driving permit that has a motorcycle endorsement, then it's going to be a bit of a process to get a Vietnamese local license. And if you don't have one and you're stopped by the police, they will impound your bike. And to get it back, you pay a fine. And then you also have to show up with a local license to get your bike back. But that's what you couldn't get in the first place, why your bike got impounded. So as these things progressed and I found out more and more and I encountered more and more of the issues, I made a decision to leave Vietnam. I had been there a total, by the day I left, I had been there 6 months exactly, the months of February through July inclusive. And I sold my bike quick before I had any problem with the police. They were setting up checkpoints all over town to stop foreigners. And there's a backstory to that. Maybe I'll get into it in another video. But I decided to leave, but where to go? When I left Cebu to go to Vietnam, my attitude was, if Vietnam doesn't work out, I'll go somewhere else. Maybe I'll check out Thailand, maybe I'll check out Malaysia or Indonesia. And my view was, if I turned around and came back to Cebu, back to the Philippines, that would be like going backwards. That would be like admitting defeat. But as you go forward in these situations, as you work through the situation in your mind, you're sitting there in Vietnam and you find out all these things are kind of going against your bliss, and you decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to go to another place where I may have all these same issues? Or should I reverse my decision? And that's when you realize, yes, all decisions are reversible if you plan properly, if you have the resources to do it, if you haven't burned bridges. Don't talk bad about the country you left, because you may want to go back to that country. Don't burn bridges with your friends who are back there, because you may end up back there among them. It may be the best option for you. And it turned out for me that my view became, I should have scouted out Vietnam for 3 weeks or a month. 3 weeks or a month would have told me everything I needed to know about living in Vietnam. That would have been enough, and I wouldn't have probably gone there to live. There's really enough, there's sufficient cons to outweigh the pros, more so than here in the Philippines, I think by far. And so I would have scouted out Vietnam, not given up my apartment, not sold my bike, and I would have been in better shape coming back to just drop back in here to the Philippines. If I had found that it was a good place, I could come back here, sell everything up, settle up my lease, and then go. But I didn't do that. I found myself in Vietnam and not liking it after 6 months. So I reversed my decision. I came back. In fact, I went back to my landlord here in Cebu, has a very nice unit. His wife did a great job in the interior decor here. So I asked him, is it available? And I got back into this unit. And I bought a bike. And I'm pretty much settled back in to the life I had, but with a new outlook. I'm going to travel more. I'm probably going to get a resident visa now that I'm decided to commit to the Philippines. And then I'll do more traveling around Southeast Asia, because a resident visa allows you multi-entry privileges. You don't have to keep dealing with visa renewals on a tourist visa. You don't have to deal with the initial 59-day visa-free stay and getting an ACR card. You're just good to go for a year at a time. It's cheaper. So I'll go and do that, and then I'll be able to travel considerably more. But in the meantime, in the next 6 months that it takes me to do that, I'll travel around the Philippines and show off some of that, show off Cebu, And we'll talk about many of the factors that will go into your own decision making. I've made a couple of videos on budgeting, on the dangers of the Philippines. Is it dangerous? I don't think it is. But I'll be making a lot more videos pretty soon. So I decided to reverse my decision and come back. And in the future, if I decide, and I may decide that I want to leave Cebu, move out to somewhere else, try some other place, I will definitely scout it out first. And that kind of applies when you're coming out to Southeast Asia for the first time. I had many Filipino friends in the United States. I knew a lot about the Philippines. I had come here once. And so I knew I could jump into the Philippines. I sold out everything in the United States. Sold my condo, sold my cars, sold the condo, furnished everything in it. I came out to the Philippines with one check bag and one carry-on bag. And it worked out great for those 28 months. I had some ups and downs, but there was never a time where I said, geez, I made a really bad decision. I wish I had not come out here. I got to go rebuild my life in the US. If you're not convinced, if you don't have the basis for knowing that you are going to be happy, at least as happy as you were back home, then don't sell out everything yet. Make a trip out here first. If you can't afford to make a trip out here and back before making a decision, then that probably signifies that you can't afford to move out here yet. Be prepared. Make sure all your bills are settled up. Don't have debt when you come out here. Have a source of income. Have a pretty reliable source of income if you're still working. Prove that out. Get with other guys who are here, who are working in that same kind of field that you're planning to work here in. Usually it's online, like teaching. And make sure that you can budget for that. You don't want to have to reverse your decision if you can't afford to. If you can afford to, as I could with Vietnam, then it's a great option among all the options you have. You can go forward to some other place, try it out. You can try to make the place you're in work, or you can reverse your decision, as I did. And I reversed it all the way back into the same condo. I'm sleeping in the same bed I was sleeping in before I left for Vietnam. And I love it. And I have a fresh pair of eyes for Cebu and for the Philippines. I'm going to travel more. I bought a really cool bike. I'll show that in my next video, and or in one of my next videos. And so I'm real happy with having done a 180 reversal, drop back in here. I have the experience of 6 months living in Vietnam. I can talk about that. There's more I want to see in Vietnam, but I'll do it in a different way. I would go to Vietnam and travel south to north on a bike over a period of 6 weeks or 2 months, see the country, but not really commit to settling in there, not take a lease on an apartment, living from hotel to hotel, from Airbnb to Airbnb, and see each place for a short period of time and move on and really enjoy the journey. Because Vietnam is a gorgeous country. It has some spectacular scenic landscapes, coastline, mountains, the Mekong Delta. It's just, there's so much to see, and I didn't see even a small fraction of what I would love to see there. I kind of got bogged down in I'm going to live here and building a life there, and I should have just been a tourist. So you live and you learn. So definitely have a contingency plan, have the resources to put that into effect, be able to walk away from the situation you're in. Don't commit too much. You know, a good friend of mine, Enrique Velez, he has Life Beyond the Sea, his YouTube channel. And he says it best. He says, don't make any big decisions for a year. And that doesn't include don't get a lease, but it does include things that you can't easily get out of. Relationships. Don't commit and marry in the first year. Don't buy property in the first year. Don't make any big promises in the first year. Experience the place and be able to back away and make a new plan and go somewhere else, or go back to where you started. That applies if you're coming out here the first time. That applies if you're already here and you're going to make some new plan. Definitely, you know, don't just jump into things blind. So here I am back in Cebu. I'm showing you some pictures of what's here, and I'll be doing some videos around those scenes soon, and hope you enjoy.